So what's going on, guys? Wanted to get with you today and do a little review on my sump pump and kind of let you know how it's working, explain a few things about my setup that might help you with your setup with your sump pump. So I know it's winter here where I am, so it's a good time to do a little bit of work on the sump pump, especially with the spring rains coming. It's always good to have everything in working order. So when I moved into my house a couple years ago, the sump pump was actually one of the biggest problems that I had. And luckily, my dad helped me out and we rebuilt my sump pump last winter actually, and it's been working great ever since. It was definitely a challenge, but you know, if you're willing to get your hands dirty a little bit, it's something that can really be beneficial to rework it, make sure it's running properly. Actually, one of the biggest issues with my sump pump when I obtained the house was it was always running. This is something I would say step one is make sure you've got the height of your sump pump adjusted properly. A good way to do this is to just grab something like a stick. I couldn't find any yardsticks at my home improvement store that were wood, so I just marked out 10 inches and above on a stick. You can drop it down into the bottom of your sump pit and see how much groundwater you have. So right now I've only got about 4 inches of groundwater in there in the winter, so I know that my pumps aren't going to be running. A big component of that is you need to figure out where your groundwater's at. Once you find out where your groundwater's at, you can set the float height for your main pump. And this is my main pump here. One of the issues I ran into was the previous homeowner had this pump and it's got an attached float to it. Both the float and the pump were completely submerged. So this main pump was running non-stop all the time. Now that's a huge issue. When I rebuilt the system, I put 2 or 3 bricks, just picked them up at Menards, put 2 or 3 bricks under this pump so that it's adequately above my groundwater level. So this pump's not going to be running all the time. It's only going to run if the groundwater rises up to the level of that float. And if this float engages, comes to the top, as you can see, then my pumps are going to turn on. But you need to make sure your float is at the proper height. And when I put a couple of bricks underneath, I had to also redo this whole PVC system. So when I raised it up, this no longer fit the housing that I had, so I had to actually go in and do some PVC work. Really, guys, super simple, super cheap, so don't be afraid to work with PVC and redo your sump pump. But I raised it up a couple inches and then had to redo this system that was down here before. So I've got my main pump here, my backup pump here. These both run through check valves. That ensures that water is not going to run back down into the basin here and make the pumps keep running. So I've got 2 check valves here and here. So the water runs up from both pumps up through this PVC and it exits right here, and the pumps shoot the water up and out of the side of my house. So as you can see down here in the corners, maybe a little difficult to see, but this is where the drain tiling drains into the basin itself. And generally speaking, guys, make sure that you're aware of your groundwater level, because the drain tiling is going to push water into your basement up until that groundwater level. That's going to fluctuate a little bit between summer and winter. Generally my groundwater level is it's actually about 9 inches in the summer, and it's pretty consistently at that height. As I showed you today, it's only about 4 inches on my yardstick, so it's a lot less in the winter, but you want to really monitor it in the spring and summer, which for me it's about 9 inches. So this is kind of a standard setup. Again, couple things to look out for when you're looking at sump pumps, especially if you're a new homeowner. Figure out your groundwater level, figure out where your floats are, and make sure your pumps are only running when they need to be. If they're too far submerged, you're going to have some major issues. Your pumps are always going to be running. You're going to wear your pumps out faster, and it's basically just going to be a headache for you. So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Take a look at your sump pump. Since I made these adjustments, guys, I haven't had to look at this thing once. It's been running just absolutely perfectly. Doesn't run hardly ever, only when it needs to in the spring and summer. So guys, in the comments below, hit me up if you have any questions about your sump pump, or if you need any further explanation, and I can get into some more detail. But just wanted to give you a high-level overview and some things to look out for. Definitely subscribe, leave some comments below, and we'll catch up with you next time. Thanks, guys.